dashed up the hill at a pace that made Elayah feel like a slug.
First one up is ruler of the world.
Jorja reacted instantly, her long legs carrying her up the hill only a foot or two behind Liam.
No fair,
she screamed, racing. Just then, Liam crested the hill. He spun around and lofted his shovel like a medieval knight's sword, striking a legs akimbo pose.
I have conquered the mountain,
he bellowed.
Not a mountain,
Jorja yelled back, just a few feet from him. Marcie sighed and shook her head, adjusting her glasses. She raised an eyebrow at Elayah. Are we going to race like those idiots? Please, no. Marcie laughed. I'm glad. Together, they made a steady but unhurried trek up the hill. The incline rolled over into a broad, wide expanse of grass and trees. It would have been a mesa if it had been higher and drier. And in the southwest, from here, they could see the dinky sprawl of town to the north. The Wansler factory still chugging along, barely, to the west, and the high school to the south, down the slope. Elayah allowed herself a moment to enjoy the view, then hustled over to where the others had gathered.
I think it's this tree,
Liam said, now all serious.
It is, right?
Everyone glanced over at Elayah, who had already dug into her pocket for her phone. She consulted a document, pinching it wider. It was a scan of the yellowing sheet of paper she'd found in one of the old yearbooks in the school library. There was a map of sorts there, with a scraggle of lines to indicate the copse of trees they faced right now. Then a hasty circle to indicate the sun. Some ruled lines formed a right triangle between the sun, one tree in particular, and a spot on the ground. The tree on the map had a call-out to it, showing a capital B. The tree Liam had indicated had a rough, scraggly B carved into its bark, nearly overgrown, but still distinct enough to identify. Looks right, Elayah said. It had been more than 30 years since the makeshift map was drawn. They were damn lucky the tree was still there. Hell, they were lucky the hill was still there. When she told her dad about the treasure hunt, he'd laughed and said, Honey, are you sure there's even a place to look anymore? Fortunately, there was. The hill and the trees were older, slightly eroded, more than a little weary-looking, but still in the same places they'd occupied in 1986. Time to measure, she told them. The lines forming the right angle had foot demarcations on them, meaning that figuring out the location of the spot on the ground should have been as simple as facing the right direction, watching the shadow of the tree, and judiciously applying old man Pythagoras' theorem about a squared and b squared equaling c squared. But the tree had grown over the past few decades, so they had to fake it, using the measurement on the old paper to calculate where the shadow would have fallen back in 1986, and then going from there. Elayah had aced trig, so she got to do the math, while Liam and Marcie used their shovels to measure off the appropriate distances.
Why didn't they just write down the longitude and latitude?
Liam grumbled. Because no one had GPS back then, Jorja told him gently. Physically, Liam was almost always a step ahead of the three women. Mentally, he was almost always a step behind. It was simple enough to find the spot. Now, they just had to hope that, for example, the tree hadn't shifted because of erosion or ground movement in the preceding 30-plus years, or that the slope of the ground hadn't changed too much, or any of a million other little things that could throw them off. She kept those fears to herself. No point stressing anyone out. This was supposed to be fun. A lark, Jorja had called it when Elayah first